Dog refused to move. What he did next shocked everyone. The pitbull dog kept hugging and hiding the baby. When the mom finally discovered why, her whole world changed in one terrifying moment. It started on a cold morning in Cedar Falls, a quiet little town where nothing strange ever seemed to happen. But that day, something felt off the moment Emily stepped into her baby daughter's room. Their pitbull, Bruno, was standing beside the crib with his chest pressed tightly against the wooden bars as if he were trying to block something from reaching the baby. At first she froze. Bruno wasn't acting like himself at all. His body was stiff. His eyes were locked only on the baby. And when Emily took a step toward the crib, Bruno wrapped his big paws around the sleeping infant and pulled her gently against his chest. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Bruno had lived with them for 4 years and had always been calm and soft. He had never growled, never snapped, never even taken food unless someone handed it to him. But now he was holding her baby like he owned her. When Emily tried to reach in, Bruno lowered his head and let out a deep sound she had never heard before. Not loud, not wild, but enough to make her heart slam against her ribs. She stumbled back in shock. Why would Bruno act like this? Why wouldn't he let her near her own child? Her hands shook as she whispered his name, hoping he would calm down. But he didn't. His body stayed wrapped around her daughter like he was building a wall with his own fur. Emily's mind raced through every terrible thought she had ever heard about pit bulls. What if he suddenly snapped? What if something switched inside him? What if her baby was in danger right now and she didn't even understand it? Her husband, Mark, worked long hours at the local hardware store, leaving Emily home alone most days with the baby and Bruno. She trusted the dog, but today something felt different. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. This strange behavior hadn't started today. For the last week, Bruno had been sticking to the baby like glue. At first, Emily thought it was sweet. He would sit beside the crib, follow her whenever she carried the baby, and sleep right outside the nursery door. She had even laughed about it once, saying the dog was acting more like a babysitter than she was. But things had slowly grown more intense. 2 days ago, she noticed Bruno push himself between her and the baby every time she picked her up. Yesterday he kept whining and pacing around the nursery like he was waiting for something to happen. And last night he scratched the door non-stop as if he was desperate to get inside. Emily thought he was just acting protective. Maybe even jealous. But now she wasn't sure of anything. Seeing him wrapped around her baby made fear rise in her chest like a heavy wave. Her throat felt tight. Her legs felt weak. And her heart wouldn't slow down. What was he doing? What was he sensing? What was he trying to protect the baby from? She swallowed hard and tried to take another step forward, but Bruno only squeezed the baby tighter, curling his body around her like a shield. That was the moment Emily realized something horrifying. Bruno wasn't acting strange because he was dangerous. He was acting strange because something else was. And whatever it was inside the house. Emily stood frozen in the doorway, her pulse pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Bruno wasn't looking at her anymore. His eyes stayed fixed on the far corner of the nursery, the one spot she hadn't paid attention to when she walked in. His muscles were tight, his breathing fast, and every few seconds he made a low rumble deep in his chest. Emily followed his gaze, her stomach twisting. There was nothing there. Just a corner. A night light plugged into the wall. A stack of folded baby blankets. But Bruno didn't think it was nothing. He pressed his body even closer to the crib and let out another tense sound. Not loud. Not angry. More like a warning. "Bruno, what is it?" Emily whispered, knowing he couldn't answer but still hoping he would. She inched toward him again, but Bruno's head shot up and he barked once, sharp and panicked. The sudden noise made the baby flinch awake. She started to cry, her small body shaking with confusion. Emily reached out on instinct to grab her, but Bruno quickly shifted, blocking Emily's hand with his shoulder. Not hurting her. Not snapping. Just refusing to move. Tears burned in Emily's eyes. Why was her dog stopping her from touching her own daughter? She backed away again and tried calling Mark, but the call went straight to voicemail. He was probably helping customers at the store and couldn't answer. She swallowed hard and wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. That was when the room grew colder. Not a lot, but enough to make goosebumps rise on her arms. Emily froze. The heating was on. The door had been closed all morning. Why would the temperature drop suddenly? Bruno's ears twitched. His eyes narrowed at the same corner. His tail curled down tight under him. Then he did something that sent a rush of fear straight into Emily's chest. He backed the baby deeper into the crib, covering most of her tiny body with his thick frame. He wasn't acting wild. He wasn't confused. He was shielding her from something coming from the corner. Emily's throat tightened. She kept staring at the spot, willing her eyes to catch whatever he was seeing. But there was nothing. No movement. No shadow. No sound. The only noise was her daughter crying softly under Bruno's chest. Emily forced herself to breathe and stepped closer to the corner. Maybe there was an animal trapped behind the wall. A leak. Something simple. Something she could explain. But the closer she got, the colder she felt. Her fingertips tingled. Her skin crawled. Then she noticed something. The night light in the wall socket was flickering. Just a tiny tremble of light, barely visible at first. But then it flickered again. And again. Bruno's growl deepened with each blink. Emily stared at the outlet. Something was wrong with it. She knew it. She felt it. But she didn't understand it. Not yet. And then, just as she leaned in a little more, Bruno barked again, louder this time, sending her stumbling back. Her heart jumped into her throat as she realized one terrifying truth. Bruno wasn't protecting the baby from a person. Not an animal. Not a stranger hiding in the house. He was warning them about something they couldn't see. Something that was quietly getting worse. Something that could kill them all if she didn't figure it out soon. Emily's hands shook as she glanced at the outlet again. The flicker wasn't just the night light. She could smell it now. A faint, sharp odor. Something chemical, not sweet, not like the baby's formula or the laundry soap. Her stomach twisted as fear settled deep in her chest. Bruno's growls were low but urgent, vibrating through the room. He shifted, pressing the baby even closer to him, his massive body curling protectively around her. It hit Emily like a punch. He wasn't being possessive. He was saving her. Her mind raced. Electrical fires. Sparks. Smoke. She'd read about them online. How quickly a small spark could turn into a nightmare. She moved closer again, cautiously this time, trying to look at the outlet behind the crib. There it was. A small, black smudge creeping up the plastic cover. The faintest wisp of smoke curling out. She froze. Emily's heart pounded. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. She grabbed the baby close, still shielded by Bruno, and backed out of the room. The dog followed every step, nudging her gently but firmly, his eyes never leaving the wall. It all clicked in her mind in one terrifying second. If she hadn't noticed the smoke, if Bruno hadn't reacted this way, she would have placed the baby's crib directly over a slowly burning outlet. The thought made her chest tighten. She ran to the kitchen, still holding the baby, and grabbed her phone with trembling hands. Her fingers fumbled as she dialed 911. The dispatcher answered immediately. 911, what's your emergency? Emily's voice cracked as she struggled to speak. There's smoke in my baby's room. Please, you have to hurry. Ma'am, get everyone out of the house. Now, the dispatcher said. Emily didn't wait. She ran toward the front door, Bruno moving ahead to guide her steps. He pressed against her legs as if saying, keep going. Don't stop. Outside, the cold morning air hit her face, sharp and biting. Neighbors peeked from their windows. A few came out to help when they saw her carrying the baby, hair messy, eyes wide with panic. Mark's car pulled into the driveway moments later, his face pale as he ran toward them. Emily could barely speak, pointing toward the nursery. Bruno sat alert beside her, tail stiff, eyes still fixed on the house. Firefighters arrived within minutes, axes and hoses in hand. Smoke billowed from the baby's room, creeping slowly but surely up the walls. Emily held her daughter tight as the team rushed inside, hearts pounding alongside hers. Bruno stayed outside, still standing between Emily and the house as if keeping her safe from unseen danger. The dog who had once seemed overprotective and strange now looked like a hero, alert, aware, and completely fearless. Emily sank to the ground, clutching her daughter, finally understanding. Bruno hadn't been acting out. He hadn't turned dangerous. He had known something she couldn't see. And in that moment, she knew without a doubt that he had saved her baby's life. The firefighters worked quickly, breaking through the nursery wall and disconnecting the outlet. Smoke hissed and crackled as they pulled away scorched insulation. If Emily had waited another few minutes, the fire would have spread, and she couldn't even imagine the outcome. Mark crouched beside her, his hands trembling as he took the baby from her arms. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We were safe. Bruno, he saved her." The fire captain approached, shaking his head in disbelief. This was serious. The wiring behind this wall was old, frayed. Any spark could have turned this room into flames in minutes. "You got extremely lucky." Emily looked at Bruno, who now sat quietly beside her feet, panting lightly. His thick fur was dusted with soot from the smoke, but his eyes were calm, patient, protective. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around him. "I'm so sorry, Bruno," she whispered. I thought you were being possessive. I didn't understand. I didn't see it." Bruno pressed his massive head into her chest and licked her cheek. No judgment. No anger. Just trust. Mark joined them, kneeling on the other side. "I should have seen it too," he said quietly. "You were right. He was protecting her all along." Emily glanced back toward the nursery. The crib had been moved just enough by Bruno's nudges over the last week that it wasn't directly over the fire starting point. Every time she had tried to move closer, he had blocked her, not to hurt but to keep the baby safe. In that moment, she realized something she had never fully understood before. Dogs see the world in ways humans cannot. They feel dangers we cannot smell, sense, or hear. And sometimes their stubbornness, their resistance, is the only thing standing between life and tragedy. The family decided to stay at Mark's parents' house for the rest of the day while the electricians and fire inspectors worked. Emily kept glancing at Bruno, who had settled in a corner of the living room, still alert, still watchful. Every few minutes, she would see him lift his head and look toward the nursery with unwavering focus. Not as a warning this time, but as a silent reminder. He had been their guardian all along. That night, as Emily and Mark finally began to relax, she couldn't help but think back to the days before the incident. How she had misunderstood Bruno's behavior. How exhaustion had clouded her judgment. How easily she could have made the worst mistake of her life. And she knew one thing for certain. She would never doubt him again. Bruno had not just been a pet. He had been a protector. A hero in fur. The kind of protector who asks for nothing in return. No thanks, no rewards, only trust and love. Over the next few days, the house was repaired, the wiring replaced, and the nursery rebuilt from scratch. Bruno's bed was placed right beside the crib, not as a compromise, but as a recognition of the role he had played. Emily watched him lie there, alert but calm, and felt a wave of gratitude she could barely put into words. She realized that protection doesn't always look the way you expect. Sometimes it looks like stubbornness. Sometimes it looks like a refusal to move. Sometimes it looks exactly like love. Mark smiled as he watched Bruno curl around the baby. "We'll never doubt him again," he said softly. Emily nodded, resting a hand on Bruno's back. "Never. He's more than a dog. He's family. And today he's our hero." Stories like this remind us that some of the greatest protectors don't wear uniforms or carry badges. Some of them have fur, for paws, and hearts bigger than we can imagine. If this story made your heart beat faster or opened your eyes to the quiet heroes among us, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever seen a pet act in a way that completely surprised you? If you were Emily, would you have understood Bruno before it was too late? Write your thoughts in the comments below. Yes or no, we want to know what you would have done. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another real-life story like this one. Thank you so much for listening and sharing these moments with us. We'll see you in the next story. Take care and give your pets an extra hug today. They might be looking out for you in ways you'll never know.